Good afternoon, Minagishigad, and thank you everyone for joining us for this important conversation as we celebrate McMaster's inaugural Day of Giving, and it's in support of the success of Black, Indigenous, and equity-deserving students. My name is Shylo Elmayan, and I'm the Director of Indigenous Student Services.
Good afternoon, and I'm Clare Warner. I am the Senior Advisor with a focus on equity, inclusion, and anti-racism within the Department of Student Affairs. And we would like to begin this webinar by recognizing and acknowledging that McMaster University is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and the Haudenosaunee Nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. And land acknowledgements are an important way of honoring the Indigenous people who have been living and working on these lands for many, many thousands of years. And they are also a reminder to all of us to reflect on the ongoing impacts of settler colonization and the need to continue to ask ourselves how, in practical terms, we are seeking reconciliation with Indigenous communities. And today's Day of Giving is an important step in gathering our community around the priorities established within McMaster's strategy towards inclusive excellence. And this afternoon, we have the privilege of hearing from 2 alumni and 2 students who will share their personal experiences as Black and Indigenous students, along with their insights about what they would like to see developed to continue to improve the experiences of students on campus.
So allow me to introduce our guests today. To begin, we have Mariette Sutherland. She is a member of the Whitefish River First Nation on Birch Island and is a graduate of the class of 1990 with the B.Eng. Mariette was the first president of what was then called the McMaster First Nation Student Association. And now in her professional career, she is a consultant conducting research and community engagement in First Nations and Indigenous health services. Welcome, Mariette. Next, we have Sage Hartmann. Sage is Red River Métis from Manitoba. She is a 5th-year graduating student from the Faculty of Social Sciences, majoring in psychology, neuroscience, and behavior. Sage is an active student leader at McMaster. I know this very well. She is the director of the Cooperative of Indigenous Students, Studies, and Alumni. Miigwech and welcome, Sage. We also have joining us Ashleigh Montague, who graduated from Commerce in 2015 and was involved as a student in the African Caribbean Association. Ashleigh is the co-founder of Black Owned, where their mission is to celebrate and support Black-owned businesses in the greater Hamilton area. Thank you for joining us, Ashleigh. And our last special guest is Anuoluwa Popoola. She is a 3rd-year health sciences student specializing in child health. She is the undergraduate coordinator of the Black Student Mentorship Program at MAC and the incoming president of the Black Aspiring Physicians at McMaster. She also works with McMaster's Access Strategy to help marginalized students navigate the post-secondary admissions process. Welcome, Anu, and all of our guests. We're so grateful for you taking this time with us and being here to share.
And we will invite each pair to share their reflections, comparing and contrasting their experiences. And just a reminder to people who are tuning in that you can add your questions to the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we will do our very best to get to as many questions as we can once we've heard from all of our panelists. And I will now invite Mariette and Sage to start us off.
Tansei, hello everyone. There she is. Hi Mariette, how are you?
Yeah, not bad.
Well, it's good to see you again. I guess we can kick things off. Yeah, so I guess to start, I'll ask you a question. And what I'm really curious about is what your student experience was like at McMaster.
Sure, I can paint a little picture for everyone. So this is going back a few years. I now have my own children in university. So I have a son in engineering, 3rd year at Carleton, and a daughter going off to Dartmouth College. And I was thinking about, my time when I just was leaving grade 13 at the time, and then, making the big move off of the First Nation that I live on to a city. And so that was a really big adjustment for me at the time. If you can imagine, our community here on Whitefish River, we have about 300 people living here. So it's a really small community. And going to McMaster in Hamilton was a major cultural shock for me. I wasn't quite used to being in urban settings, and neither was I used to the size and the amount of students bustling around at McMaster. And add to that, the program that I went into was engineering. And on that side of the campus, not a lot of brown faces at the time, and not a lot of supports for that. So it was a really big change for me. And it would be days walking around and not seeing anyone that looked similar or came from even this small town that I went to high school in, to see friends from that school. So it was really quite a change for me. I don't know what it's been like for you though, Sage. Maybe you could share a little bit about your experience.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of relate to you in some of your experiences, in that when I came to Mac, no one from my hometown went to Mac, so I also kind of came here and didn't know anyone. I did have my sister with me though, so she was nice to have going through that experience with me. But honestly, I think it's just been one giant learning curve. It was kind of rough at the beginning. I guess like similar to what I said, like I entered university and I felt very like disconnected from my family and my community. And there was like a combination of factors that led to me feeling very like isolated on campus and insecure and kind of othered by the institution. So I think I definitely relate to you in having that kind of shared experience. But, I think as my feelings, with my feelings of disconnect, I think that's kind of what made me so eager to pursue various Indigenous knowledge-based academic opportunities, experiential and interdisciplinary learning opportunities, trying to branch out a bit and find that community. And I think it's through those opportunities and experiences that I met and was able to develop relationships with various amazing and inspiring people who, all have uniquely contributed to my own like personal growth and success. Yeah, I don't know. I think when I think of my experience, it's just been really embodying the notion that it takes a community.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that point about community and connection, because I think what was really a helpful turning point for me was running into Dawn Martin Hill at the time. She was doing her, I think her graduate or undergraduate work at McMaster. And she happened to know like a few of the students who were from Six Nations who were also attending Mac. So she was able to connect me with some people from the Six Nations. And then together we were brainstorming a little bit and thinking, there's really nothing that, you like, for example, I would say in the first 6 weeks at Mac, I must have failed every quiz and test. I had no network and I had no understanding of how to even get support for tutoring or help or, study groups or anything like that. And I know that's a big factor for a lot of students that come from high school, where it's sort of all, it's almost spoon fed to you at the high school level, and you get to university level courses and you're on your own pretty much. So having some kind of linkage to find those kind of supports is really important. And I was lucky to be able to, create some of that within my own class group. But with Dawn, it was really helpful. That for me felt like a turning point, because I could see other people like myself. Mind you, they weren't like Anishinaabe from my territory, but still we had a lot in common. We had a very common experience and wanted to see things improve for any other Indigenous students that were coming on campus. So we together got a meeting with then University President Peter George. And we said, look, we think we need some kind of association or a club or a group that can do a little bit of advocacy for some of the things we need. And so that's how the very first McMaster Native Students Association was formed. And Don sort of nudged me in the direction of leading that charge. So that's how I became the president at the time. And we did some early things like bring speakers to campus, knowledge holders. And we held a conference on campus to bring people in and, to invite experts from other areas of study, from other campuses. So it was really like I say, a turning point for me to have a connection to other people like myself, and B, to do something about it, to do something about that need for community and connection. And I know you're doing similar things, Sage. So I just want to give you a chance to share a little bit about that.
I am, yeah, no, it's so fun listening to you talk about the development of that association, because like Shylo said, I'm the director of CISSA, and I have been for the last 2 years, which I think grew out of that original club. But so CISSA is the Cooperative of Indigenous Student Studies and Alumni, and that's kind of like the undergraduate Indigenous student group right now. But yeah, so through my position, I've kind of done similar things as you, where I love sharing knowledge and like providing people with a platform to share their knowledge and experience and stuff. I'm a huge advocate for shared learning. And so similar to you, I've tried to take my positions to just invite speakers in and invite knowledge holders in so that they can, speak their truth and share their experiences, in hopes to provide some outreach to other Indigenous students who might be at MAC, and just kind of like expand our touch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see Claire just unmuted, so I don't know if, no, okay, yes. Yeah, so I don't know, I feel like we had similar experiences of trying to promote indigeneity on campus and provide some sort of connection for Indigenous students on campus, having experienced that disconnection ourselves. But yeah, so I guess when reflecting on your experience, is there anything that you think would have made it better?
Yeah, I kind of had a full circle moment. Not long ago, I was invited back. I think it was on maybe the 25th anniversary of the Indigenous Students Association being formed, and they had a little powwow on campus, and it was really neat because it was right in front of the engineering building where I spent many long hours studying. And I was able to bring my two daughters along to show them the campus and to just experience the whole vibe, which was awesome, because I think what it is, and I think this is happening more and more, and lots of university campuses and other places are doing this, is invite community in. Like, make it so that it's a warm and welcoming place for community members, do the cultural activities, the speaker nights. I was really impressed too, because I think the catering service even was able to prepare bannock and Three Sisters too. And so it's all those things, it's all the pieces of the puzzle, not just, the supports for learning, but also about connection, about, cultural and spiritual practices, having a place on campus, having a physical place to gather is important, to have that sense of connection, to share some food together, and to do that sharing, because it is a two-way learning. It's about Indigenous people taking up their rightful place in the campus community, but it's also about the campus community understanding and welcoming the wider community from around the area. So I think more of that needs to happen, in my view.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm definitely someone who loves getting to know someone over food. I think cooking food with someone is just such a great way to share culture, and just get to know someone and get to know who they are. We used to share tea. We'd get a kettle of tea and have our little kitchen table talks. But yeah, I am going to be mindful of time. But
I hate to stop it. This is so great, even in the 10 minutes. Mariette and Sage. I think what I resonate most with is the community building. And even as like a first year learner, seeing the need to build community, and not just because you feel isolated because you're far from home, but to make the university experience what you want, and that's being connected to our communities. So it's been awesome to hear how you both did that at different stages, at different times when there were more or less supports, but the feelings and the desire stayed the same. Miigwech.
Thank you both so much once again. And we will now invite Ashleigh and Anu to share their reflections.
All right, thank you. So I resonate with a lot of things that Sage and Mariette talked about, so I'm excited for this conversation. Ashleigh, I'm curious to know what your experience was like since you graduated like a few years ago, if you'd like to share.
No problem. And I agree, Anu. It was really great to hear Mariette and Sage speak, because I was like, well, as they're saying, I'm like, that's how I felt. These are some of the experiences I shared. For me, coming to MAC, I was actually super excited. For those who do not know, I actually grew up here in Hamilton, and I always thought of McMaster as this like prestigious institute, and I got into the commerce program. So I was just so excited to be coming to McMaster and being able to stay home and go to school. But immediately going into my program, I realized that it was in my year, there was only 2 other Black people in that program. And so there was that. Then there was the aspect of, I'm a very outgoing person. I love being involved in my community and school. And the other problem I guess I faced was being integrated into my program. And the school council, I think the student union is what it's called at the time. Like I applied to be on the commerce frosh team, like leaders, I forget what it's called right now, but I wanted to be there and welcome in new students. I didn't make it. And the people who were making the decision, there was nobody on that committee who reflected my image. So I don't know if that played a factor or not, but it's harder to get into spaces when there's nobody else there advocating for you. I also applied to be the commerce rep, because again, I was like, oh, another way to make changes is being a part of the governing council. But again, it's hard when you're not integrated into your program community and trying to, apply or run for these positions and not getting that opportunity. So it wasn't for lack of me trying to be involved in the school community. I tried and was not successful. What myself and some of my colleagues, friends did was we started a sorority. I know McMaster doesn't necessarily recognize them, but the president of the sorority at the time, she had gone to rush for another sorority on campus. And, it was amongst friends or people who she had thought would be her friends. And when she came, she was kind of feeling the cold shoulder, like, this is not the place for you. And so she took it upon herself to find 7 other founding mothers to create the second Black focused sorority here in Canada. And that's housed at McMaster University, and that's Nu Omega Zeta. And for us, that was community building around sisterhood, education, and volunteerism. So yeah, I can talk more about that later, but that was one way of me finding community at McMaster. The second way was they have, clubs like ACA and Mac Africans, I believe it's what it's called now. And so being involved in those spaces. But another thing also with my experience was, money and funding for school. So I always had to be working. And I'm excited to hear about your experiences to see if this has changed, but it seemed like there was not really any pot of funding that was specific to us, or any entrance scholarships other than, ones that are based on your grades, to help fund me through school. So having to always be working and trying to be involved in the community, trying to get good grades and all that wonderful stuff was also hard. And yeah, I think that kind of summarizes, my experience at MAC. So there was opportunity to find a place, but in the institution capacity of it all, it was hard for me to find my footing.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely relate to a lot of things that you shared. So for me, I went to a high school that didn't have a lot of Black people. So when applying to university, that was like one of my main requirements. Like I need to be in a diverse setting. So I did research on McMaster. Like I saw the Black clubs. I was like, okay, this is looking good. And I got into the program that I wanted to get into. So McMaster was like at the top of my list. So I'm lucky to have found a community, a Black community within McMaster, but in my program, there were also only 2 other Black people in my year. So I definitely relate to what you were saying about kind of feeling isolated within my program, especially in my first year. I felt like most of my friends, like I had a couple friends in my program, but most of my friends are like the Black people I met outside of my program. I just found it kind of hard to connect. And in the first month of me being at McMaster, I remember being in the BHSC lounge, and there were some upper year students who were there, and they were talking about like medical school, and they said something to the effect of, oh, imagine if we were Black or Indigenous, it'd be so much easier for us to get in. So it's like hearing these things from people who are in your program just like made me also not want to really associate. So it just made things really hard for me in my first year. But I'm really happy that there were Black clubs on campus in which I could join for that support that I was looking for.
Right.
But what I noticed was like a lot of these things were like student-led initiatives. So it was like Black students taking the initiative to like start these things. And it seemed like institution level support was kind of missing in my first year. So I would say that's one thing that has changed a lot. You were asking about funding from McMaster. I know that now at least like we have the Black Student Success Center, the Black Student Mentorship Program, and we've also been receiving support from McMaster. So it's been really nice to see these things grow and see how it's been benefiting the students that are coming in. And even like within my program, a group of students, including myself, we approached the dean and we pitched like a pathway for Black applicants in the health sciences program, which got approved. So this is like the second year that it's running. So it's just good to see that changes are being made. It's not to say that things are perfect, but things are definitely heading in the right direction, at least from what I've seen. So yeah, I don't think us students, like as much as I love doing this work, I don't think we should have to like bear the burden of doing everything. So receiving institutional support can make a world of a difference. And that's one thing that I've seen change in the few years that I've been at McMaster. So
amazing. And also, with the work that I'm doing currently in the community, I'm also hearing, and I think you work for, or you do work in this section, but access, and how to provide a scholarship. I don't know if you can share more about that, but yeah.
For sure. Access didn't exist when I applied to McMaster. I think it was established the year after. But basically, it's just for like equity-seeking groups or like marginalized communities to make post-secondary more accessible. So there are bursaries offered. I believe it's $5,000 to $20,000, and they're renewable every year. So a lot of the work that I've been doing has just been outreach to high school students, like not only in Hamilton, but in like the greater Toronto area, because I think a lot of times I just reflect on how lucky I was to have, guidance counselors in high school who were able to support me in the admissions process and encourage me. And that is not like the common experience for Black students. Like I have family members where they were like forced into applied programs, so they couldn't take university, can't apply to university. Like it's like a chain reaction. So you have to really get these students young and encourage them from young to go down these pathways. And I think that's what the access strategy has really been doing. So I'm hoping that in the coming years, more and more Black people will be entering university or just post-secondary in general. I think it's really important. And McMaster having this program, I think will make things better. So it's good to see support from the institution on that level. And I hope we continue down this path.
That's amazing. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. One of the things that the sorority did do was we had this thing called a Chance on Campus, and we worked with Sir John A. McDonald, which is a high school that is now shut down here in Hamilton. But at the time when I was in university, it was open. And we would bring Black female students onto campus, and they would be paired with another sorority member, and they would come with us to class to experience what it would be like to be in a lecture. And I think honestly, it makes a world of a difference when you see people like you, when you see that it is possible. Like, people talk about this all the time. Like, I work part-time in 2 high schools here in Hamilton, and it's like when they see they see a Black person in the school, it's like, oh my gosh, there's somebody there who can advocate for me. There's somebody there who shares my experiences. So I really love the idea of access and how you guys are working to go out into the schools to say, yeah, this is possible, and we have the support to bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Sure. It's really good to see. And I want to shout out Celeste Licorice. She's the Black woman who heads the access strategy. She's been doing a great job. So I really hope we get to see its impact as the years follow. But yeah, I guess, what do you hope for future Black students on campus moving forward?
Oh, that is an excellent question. And I guess I will speak to some of the changes that I've also seen. Like, I see, and we saw earlier in the video that played, the Black Student Success Center. I hope I pronounced that right, but that's amazing. I had the opportunity to go and tour it the other day. So it's like now and the mentorship program that you are a part of and that I heard about, I think it's amazing to see that once you're in school, that there's resources to set you up for success while in school and after school. That's my hope. I always tell students that I talk to now, and even people, that it's about university. Yes, it's about gaining your education and, having that aspect to help you towards your career growth, but it's also about the network that you're building. So it's my hope that as more Black students, more diverse students come onto campus, that we're building that network that is setting us up for continued success after post-secondary. So it's amazing to see that there are so many things being implemented at McMaster University that is setting students up for continued success. And I think that's sometimes where the disconnect we were missing in previous years. So yeah, that's my hope. What about you?
Yeah, I would say it's the same for me. Like I said, in first year, I wasn't really aware of like resources for Black students. Like, there were like the student clubs and stuff, but now we actually have more institution level support. So I just hope that this continues, and that every Black student who comes on this campus feels like they have a place they can go to reach their full potential. Even what the Black Student Success Center is doing right now, like they give information on scholarships, like finances. I had to book a session with the finance coordinator. Like, it's just a space where you can get help in an environment that you're most comfortable in. So I just hope that students come on campus and they're made aware of these resources so they can use them to like their fullest capacity. I think the path we're going down right now is very good. I've watched things change before my eyes from first year up until now. So I just hope that it really continues and like the momentum continues. We don't just like stop doing the work that we need to do. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
Amazing. I guess I do have one question if we still have time. I don't know. Claire, you coming back on here?
2 more minutes, please.
Okay.
But I just wanted to know, has any of that support right now through the institution or through some of these programs that are available, where have you seen that impact you in school? I think I would love to hear that.
Yeah, I would say, so I was actually part of the pilot program for the Black Student Mentorship Program in my first year. So there were about 10 of us, and I was paired with a mentor who I'm still very close with to this day. And I liked the structure of the Black Student Mentorship Program because it's like first years get paired with upper year undergrads get paired with graduate mentors, and then graduates get paired with faculty. So it's like a continuous level of support that incorporates like all members of the Black community at McMaster. So now as the undergraduate coordinator of this program, like I get to speak to these first years, and we had an event, I think back in March, just for first years, and just hearing the feedback and like how happy they were with their mentor, how much the program has helped them. It just made me realize like, okay, the work that we're doing is important. And it made me feel really fulfilled and excited to see like where it goes in the future. So I would say like having that mentorship, just having someone you can even ask like about courses, like that sort of thing. Coming into my program, I didn't know anybody. So getting connected with like Black people within my program, it definitely made a difference in my education. And I'm really glad to see that that's the same case for the first years who went through the program this year. So I just hope it continues. So that has definitely been something that has helped me personally. And now McMaster is also supporting us in running the program. So that's also been great to see.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. I could listen to you all day. I don't really want to stop you if I'm honest. I'm just aware that I do want to get to some of the questions that I know our audience will have, but I think you both gave such a great summary of the reality of some of the barriers and how they impact people. So, you know, financial barriers, I heard you talk about, the social barriers. I'm always really keen to point out that, you know, the Black student community is very diverse. So, you know, it encompasses people from a real range of like cultural, religious, socioeconomic backgrounds. We have international students from all over the world. And yet this feeling of social isolation is the one thing that sort of tends to unite them as a shared experience. It was interesting to hear you talking about that. And I think it's kind of really hard to quantify what the impact of that is, but I do think it does have a very tangible impact on sort of your confidence, your esteem. You can have mental health impacts and on and on and on, which is why this work is so important. And it was great to hear you highlighting some of the things that we're trying to do to really proactively mitigate those barriers. So I actually wanted to just talk for very briefly, about 5 minutes or so, about some of what's been happening and unfolding this year with the Black Student Success Center, which is super exciting. And I always like to start just by reminding people there's such a long history with Black student staff and faculty on Canadian university campuses, really advocating for better resources for Black students. And as a result, I think universities are waking up and they are now investing, which is great. So at McMaster, we have 13, no less than 13 Black-led student groups. And we also have a very active African Caribbean faculty association, which has been around for at least the last decade. And they've very much been at the forefront of a lot of great initiatives, including starting the mentoring program. And most recently, we had a cluster hire, which brought 12 Black scholars to the university. And of course, that benefits everybody in the community. But for Black students, it means something really special, I think, to see yourselves reflected in the faculty at the university. And I say that because I think it's important to acknowledge that the Black Student Success Center didn't just sort of emerge out of thin air. It very much builds on the foundation and the legacy here at McMaster. So BSSC, as we call it, is the newest office within Student Affairs, and we officially launched in September this year. And it's been a whirlwind of a first year under the exceptional leadership of our manager of Black Student Success, Faith Ogunkoya. We have a beautiful physical space over in the Peter George building, replete with a wonderful display of student artwork, poetry, and photography, which was curated for us expertly by one of our alumni, Angela Brandt. It's inclusive of a lovely lounge space where students can come and just meet and hang out and study and socialize together. It really mitigates some of that social isolation that Anu and Ashleigh referenced. As a center, we're very much rooted in the concept of Ubuntu. And that really means I am because we are. And so we sort of embrace that cultural value of collective empowerment and success. Basically, our mission is to support and champion the holistic academic, personal, professional success of our Black students and student athletes and ensure that they have a wonderful time while they're here. And a lot of what we do is we connect them to people, to resources, to opportunities that will really enable them to thrive. And consequently, we work in close partnership with many departments across McMaster and in the wider Hamilton community. And this year in particular, we were able to offer some one-to-one advising and some programming focused on well-being and financial literacy. Interestingly, when we surveyed students, those two areas, well-being and financial literacy, were the ones that they asked us to prioritize in our programming, which we were of course happy to do. And unashamedly, our goal is to attract more and more Black students to come to McMaster through some intentional outreach and working with community partners and our local school boards. And then once students are here, we just want to support them to have a positive experience and to get involved and take advantage of all the things that are on offer at the university. And we're also really committed to helping them transition effectively out into the world of work or further studies. And I just thought I'd leave you with a couple of teasers before handing back over to Shylo, a couple of events that are coming up that we're very excited about. The first being that we will be hosting McMaster's first Black graduation ceremony on June 13th. And this will be an opportunity for the graduating class of 22, for Black students in that cohort to celebrate their success with their friends and their family and the wider community. So we're delighted to be hosting that this year for the first time. And then in September, we have a new program that we'll be launching called Empowered. We are grateful to have received some funding from the McMaster Okanagan Committee. And this is a program that's going to focus on Black male students, and it will provide an opportunity for them to be in community and conversation with each other. So that's a little sneak peek of some things to come. And I'll hand back over to you, Shylo.
Thanks, Claire. I think it's amazing, and I have to congratulate you and Faith and Jordan, the folks in the office, and those that work on other programs like Celeste, how much activity, how much growth has happened in the space to support and wrap around Black students. And I also recognize, as you mentioned, this is kind of a long time coming, and that there's been lots of people for many years that have been advocating and doing things in different ways. And the same goes for the Indigenous supports and services and education work. So our audience, they may have connected the dots a bit here in that the things that Mariette was talking about earlier in her conversation with Sage and beginning that student association. I mean, the impact of that is actually the office that I work with, the team that I work with, is beginning those student advocacy led to student focused supports, bringing elders on campus, and eventually more funding come along. So the work that, have to really say miigwech to Mariette. It's nice to meet her through this type of event. But for her and Dr. Don Martin Hill, who continues to be here, and the Confederacy chiefs and other leaders that really set up the number of different Indigenous spaces and communities here at McMaster. So I can talk a bit about our team, the Indigenous Student Services Office. We're here to provide holistic supports to our learners through all stages of their experience. So that begins with our outreach and recruitment. We do community outreach at the high school and elementary level, and we try and support learners as they transition to university life, noting some of those experiences that you can have in your first year, not knowing about tutors. And some of that comes with the pressure. You think you're at university and, oh, I shouldn't ask for help, I should figure this out. But there are supports available to you, and we're proud to do that in our office. We're really proud to play a small role in our students' educational journey, whatever small part that is. And we're very keen as a team to try and meet as many Indigenous students as they are. We know that they are in various programs on campus and maybe haven't walked through the doors yet, but we don't want them to have those feelings of isolation where they are. So we're always looking at ways to connect with students in all programs. Our programs and services are culturally based. We put a lot of focus on student well-being, looking at, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual ways, and that's important to your academic success as well. So we focus a lot on that. And just as you mentioned earlier, Indigenous learners, it's a very diverse community. They come from diverse nations and communities, and they start their academic programs at different ages and stages of life. So we have learners coming straight from grade 12, and we have grandparents who are returning to university for maybe their first or second degree, and all shades in between. So we try and be open-minded in the supports and services that are there for someone who's supporting a family, to somebody who's new to urban life from community. And I think I have to say, with the work that we do and what we're proud of resonates with what all the panelists have said, that it makes a difference to see a professor that looks like you. It makes a difference to see other students that look like you. So we're great to be able to meet with so many Indigenous students. And we're just one office here on MAC too. There's been, a growth in Indigenous offices and spaces here, and get to work with a lot of great colleagues who, support students in different ways.
So I think we're at the point in the program where we can transition now to taking some questions.
I can add a little bit. I just wanted to talk about that, and I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so I think there's from our lens anyway, there's a need for a holistic approach, and I know that there's some really strong services in place now, and a recognition of that need for emotional connection to others and to community and to wider sharing. But I think we're sort of come around to the understanding that there's the prospect of leveraging things like the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action, or the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and to really build up that social accountability, to say that, for a long while, we've sort of been off to the side and marginalized as groups. And we really need to take up that position and be strong about that, and let Indigenous students lead in that regard. I think there is, roles within the administration and with faculty and the student community, and each would have strengths to contribute for all of that. So that would be the piece I would add.
Yeah, I guess I can build off of that a bit, and even just kind of reflect on what Anu and Ashleigh were talking about in relation to what we've seen change. And personally, I've seen a shift in attitudes by administration and staff, non-Indigenous administration and staff, towards wanting to openly value Indigenous perspectives and knowledges. I've been working in the Faculty of Science for the last year, and I've felt a growth in the sense of responsibility to uphold and further advance the TRC calls to action and the Indigenous Education Council's education and research strategy. The folks that I've engaged with in the Faculty of Science specifically have really illustrated that they recognize how academic institutions are critical points of intersection between either reaffirming or disrupting the historical erasure of Indigenous peoples and our ways of being. So I guess that's something that I've seen change. Like, there's a lot of advocacy for the want for change, but I guess when thinking about what I would hope for future students, I would hope that they get to experience the tangible action and the outcomes of the advocacy work that we're doing. That's my dogs.
I can continue to add on. Are you finished, Sage? Or did you mute because of the dogs?
I'm muted because of the dogs. No, but I'm good. You go. Okay. I'll let them go off.
Yeah, so I think in reflecting on Liz's question here and kind of building on what Sage and Mariette has said, I think too, looking at opportunities that are being presented in programs, I have been trying to remember the last name of my professor, but I can only remember her first name, and it's Linda. And it was my 4th year / 5th year at McMaster, and she was doing a capstone case study. Yes, Linda Stockton, thank you. Oh, yes. And she was doing a case study class, and we got to apply to be a part of a competition that was being taken place in California. And maybe this was not intentionally, but we had a diverse team going out. There's like myself and another person who was Indian on my team. And this was like an opportunity that had me to travel to a place that I've never been before. Like I was 2 doors down from Disneyland, like never seen or had that opportunity before, and build my confidence around public speaking and putting together presentations and all this wonderful stuff. So, maybe I earned it based on my application and how I was doing in the class. But I think as we sit here and we reflect, we also need to be mindful of who we're giving those opportunities to. So, encouraging more diverse representation to those kinds of opportunities. Because now I'm able to, when I was graduating from school, add that as something that I did and speak to that experience in job applications and interviews. So yeah, I was really grateful to her support and to that class and to that program, and also how we can do more work McMaster connecting to Hamilton community and vice versa, because that's how we can also, bring together the diversity and representation and support to students. And I think all of us kind of mentioned that here in reflection, in bringing speakers on campus and all that wonderful events that we have. I remember reflecting, on my experience, and that too helped a lot. Like, for example, we had Queen C, who is a artist here in Hamilton. She came and she did a woman's seminar for us around relationship building. And so, it's just interesting how we can have a prominent Black figure in the Hamilton community come onto campus and we can learn from them. So yeah, that's my kind of 2 cents on how you can continue to build on that structurally and ensure that students are resourced.
Thank you, Ashleigh. And I just wanted to pick up, there was another question that came through about whether Black staff in particular, can get involved in the Black mentoring program, and the answer is 1,000% yes. And I don't know if you know the email address for BSMP. If you do, you could put
yes, I can put it in the chat.
Thank you so much. And I would just add that one of the exciting developments this year has been that our Equity and Inclusion Office, in partnership with HR, has started a new staff resource group specifically for Black, Indigenous, and racialized staff. So we got going this year. It's interesting how there was that reflection of the staff experience and what you guys were talking about from the student alumni perspective, in terms of sometimes also feeling socially isolated in the institution. So this new resource group meets regularly, and it is also about community connection. It's about leadership development, career development. So it's off to a great start this year as well. So I just always want to sort of champion the staff piece as well, who are a really important component within the institution as well. So if you're interested in getting involved in the mentorship, by all means, please do get in touch with us, because we would love to connect you with some students and have you share your expertise.
I see there's another question. Yeah, I'm just trying to highlight it here. So there's a question I think our panelists may want to dig into. So thank you for such a rich and engaging discussion. My question is, how do we address some of the backlash that comes with creating positive initiatives to promote inclusive excellence? For example, people feeling folks from equity deserving groups have it easier in terms of getting certain jobs or getting into graduate programs like medical school. So, dealing with the backlash.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to this. So when the Black BHSC Association when we first launched the equitable admissions for Black applicants pathway, a Reddit thread was made, obviously, about the pathway, and people were saying some not nice things, which was really hard to read. And our biggest worry was for the Black students coming into the program, that they would have to deal with people saying, you only got in because you're Black, like you weren't deserving of this. And that's something that I experienced, like even before this pathway even existed. So one thing we just try and emphasize, like, first of all, like when starting these initiatives, not everybody's going to agree with them, like that's inevitable. But one thing we try to make clear is that at least for this pathway, like all your stats need to be the same. Like we're not lowering the standard for these students. We're just trying to eliminate the bias that may come in the application process, which I don't think it should be anything controversial. But I do think backlash is inevitable. We heard from Chika on Monday, Dr. Chika Stacy. She was talking about her experience being an advocate and dealing with that backlash online. But I think what at least keeps me going is knowing that the work that I'm doing is impacting Black students to come. So I try to ignore it mostly. I try not to take it personally because people are always going to have their opinions. But yeah, I don't think it's something that can necessarily be avoided. You just have to kind of stay focused on what your goal is and just try your best to continue to support your community. That's our focus right now. So yeah, have definitely dealt with backlash. It's not fun, but it's inevitable, unfortunately. So.
I feel like I resonate and relate to that, unfortunately, way too much. Even like through my law school application, I remember experiencing similar comments regarding being Indigenous and how I get to check that box, and that makes it easier, an easier process. But I was listening to Juliet Daniel talk the other day, and she was sharing kind of those experiences and how she deals with them. And I remember her saying that you illustrate the facts and you highlight about how this isn't about lowering the standards, it's about making it an equal and equitable playing field, and how it's about removing those systemic barriers that have been proven to oppress and marginalize BIPOC folks. So yeah, just coming at them with the facts, but then also, Anu, I feel like I relate to you in regards to just trying to ignore it and stay focused on what I'm doing. Because I feel like for me, at least, when I go too deep into Reddit, I get very sad, and it's hard to kind of get wrapped up. It's easy to get wrapped up into that. So I find for myself, I just don't look at Reddit and I try to avoid all of that and stay focused on what my goals are, and continue to motivate myself and remind myself that what I'm trying to do is trying to make, I'm thinking of the future generations and trying to make sure that they have equal opportunities when they want to pursue their goals. So.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to give the last word to Mariette. I know she wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think, first of all, thank you for inviting me, and I really enjoyed hearing the other presenters on this panel. I just wanted to point out too, we shouldn't overlook the intersectionalities, because there are a lot of people who are Indigenous and Black, or have other different experience in life. So it's not like there's one or the other. And I think that there are many commonalities in what we're trying to accomplish. So I really appreciate hearing the insights of everyone on the panel, and just be mindful that more holistic approaches are really needed.
Thank you, Mariette. I agree. Listening to you and Sage, and then Anu and Ashleigh, the overlap was so apparent. And it's something actually Shylo and I have been talking about, is how can we get our two services working together and having some integrated programming. So I think this year it was very much head down, get established, but looking ahead, we're really looking for forward to opportunities, I think, to collaborate with each other, which I think will be really exciting.
And it will involve food. I know that we figured that out.
Absolutely. Food, maybe elders. So yeah, watch this space, I would say, which is great. I think we have come to our time, unfortunately. I don't know about you, but I feel like I blinked and it was over. It went very quickly. I certainly learned a lot from all of our panelists. I want to thank you all so much for being part of this conversation. Shylo, I always love co-presenting and having the opportunity to work with you. Would also just like to thank everybody who tuned in, and of course a reminder to please do visit the website for more information about the Day of Giving, which is ongoing today. Maybe somebody can put that link into the chat for folks. And Shylo, I don't know if you had any final words.
No, just a chmiwech to our panelists and to Claire for being gracious co-host, and to everybody for tuning in. Just to hearing just a small bit of experiences that we heard today is just, really great, and we really appreciate everyone sharing.